if you had to pick a narrative that you're most bullish on, I think you may have covered this, but I'd love to know from each of you like which narrative like you're the most hyped about.
Yeah. I think for me, at least right now, yeah, I mentioned earlier, like I think I'm most hyped about gaming and just being able to like use crypto in like a very like consumer focused way that just hasn't existed in this space before. But then I also like want to say like you bring up a really interesting point about these like sort of like niche use cases in crypto that like I haven't even heard about yet. With like stuff like, I mean, I've heard of like DeSci, but I haven't heard of like that level of a project doing something like that. And that kind of just brings a really interesting point in the space where if you're like on crypto Twitter and stuff a lot, you have all these narratives that are presented to you like sort of like near term or medium term, and then you miss out on a lot of like really interesting things that are happening that might have like a very long term horizon. So like one of the things that I'm thinking about is like there's probably really interesting ways to like disrupt and innovate in terms of like our energy grid and like how people receive power through distributed generation using crypto. So there's like projects like I think like energy web token is like one of the things that I've been meaning to look into for like 2 to 3 years now, or however long it's been around, and I just haven't gotten to it, just because sometimes the narrative or hype just like might not be in the space like in the near term for you to be like for it to get the sort of like hype and traction for the price to increase basically.
I'll say something more abstract, but like one of the things I think about is like right now, who's using crypto? So like crypto natives pretty much exclusively. Well, funds are going to lose money, and it's going to be harder and harder for funds to raise more money. It's going to be harder for crypto to get adoption if we don't start creating things that people are actually using. And so like, well, what are people going to start using? And I start going through these steps in my head, and I, go as many steps as possible, and then I come back. And I'm like, all right, I don't want to be 10 steps ahead. I want to be one, two, or three steps ahead max. So where are the investable opportunities there? That's one of the where earlier I said within DeFi, I like things if there's an institutional angle. I think that's a near term, very like tangible uptake in crypto usage that we'll see. Like once it could be Visa, Mastercard, for example. Once they realize they can make wider spreads on payments or forex translations of users or whatever it is, or wire transfers by going fiat stablecoin fiat as opposed to like fiat to fiat transfers. Like once these institutions realize that crypto is super super useful and they can make more money, they're going to get on chain in really meaningful ways. And that's just one example, but I try to think about where are we going to see the next uptake in adoption? Like, how do I make money off of that?
That's rad, dude.